Okay, today we're going to do age problem solving with Lego bricks. Under the topic of whole numbers, we'll be solving word problems involving the 4 operations, and one of the types of word problems we're going to face will be age problem sums. So before we start, the first concept we have to understand about word age problem sum is the difference in age. Is the same. What do I mean when I say the difference in age is the same? Okay, let's say if I am, this is me, okay, I am 20 years older than my son. Now, then next year, which is the future, next year, I will still be 20 years older than my son. The age difference does not change. It means I add 1 year and my son will be, let's say I'm 40 years, my son is 10 years old. Next year I'm 41, my son will be 11 years old. Our age difference is still the same. Okay, and this is also the same with the past. Okay, if 2 years ago, our age difference is still 20 years. So I repeat the same concept again. The difference in age is the same whether it's now, past or future. This we have to understand before we attempt any problem sum involving age. Okay, let's start with our first problem sum. The first problem sum is Mrs. Rani is 36 years old and her daughter is 4 years old. In how many years' time will she be 3 times her daughter's age? I like to jot all the information down, the important information down, so that I have a clear idea of the question. Okay, what information do we have? We know that Mrs. Rani is 36. So Mrs. Rani, I use MR for Mrs. Rani, 36 years old. We just use point form. The daughter, I use D for the daughter, is 4 years old. Okay, this is the information we have. And we have additional information. The question is, in how many years' time? How many years' time will she be 3 times? She, in this case, is Mrs. Rani, will be 3 times her daughter's age. So this is the question. I like to put my question here so that I remember. Most of the time when we attempt problem solving, we forget that we have not answered the question, and sometimes we leave our answers hanging. So that's to remind me that I have to attempt the question later. Okay, let's look at the information we have. Okay. Let's attempt the easiest information. The easiest information is we know Mrs. Rani is 36 years old. So I'm going to use this brick. Okay, this is now. I'm going to use this brick to represent Mrs. Rani. So Mrs. Rani is 36 years old. And the daughter, I'm going to use this brick. There's a difference in color. The daughter is 4 years old. Okay. Earlier on, we learned about the difference in age. So there's a difference in age here. The difference in age between Mrs. Rani and the daughter is 36 minus 4. In this case, now Mrs. Rani is 32 years older than the daughter. Let's see what other scenarios we have in this question. we also know that we have to find out, in fact, in how many years' time will Mrs. Rani be 3 times? 3 times the daughter's age. So I'm going to take this brick, okay, to denote 3 times, to represent 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So Mrs. Rani is 3 times the daughter's age. So this is the daughter, Mrs. Rani 3, so 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 units there. We learned earlier on that the difference in age, whether it's now, past or future, is the same. So we don't know in how many years' time. That we have to find out. That's the question. We don't know. But we know that the difference in age is the same. It's 32 years. Therefore, we know that 2 units here, there are 2 units here, 2 units equals to 32. And once we know that, we can find what 1 unit is. So 1 unit is equal to 32 divided by 2. In this case, we do it mentally. It's easy. It's 16 years. Okay. So we know that 1 unit here is 16. We know that the daughter is 16. When the daughter is 16, Mrs. Rani will be 32 plus 16. Here is 16. 32 plus 16. So Mrs. Rani will be 48 years old. Okay. Have we answered this question? Let's check. In how many years' time? So this is not the answer to the question, because this is telling us the age of Mrs. Rani. It does not tell us in how many years' time. So in order for us to find out in how many years' time, we look at the daughter's. We can do it 2 ways. We can look at Mrs. Rani's age or the daughter's age. I like to look at the daughter's age because the number is smaller. I like to work with smaller numbers because it is easier. Okay, so we know when the daughter is 16 years old, okay, she will be wanted, or in fact, Mrs. Rani will be 3 times the daughter's age. So now is 4. So in order to find out the difference in years, I minus 16 minus 4, and the answer is 12. So we got the answer now. The answer is in 12 years' time, Mrs. Rani will be 3 times the daughter's age. That's the end of